So, why do you do what you do? I mean, really, it sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer, well, it's usually way more complex than we think. In this explainer, we're going to dive into a really powerful idea that the reasons you start doing something are often completely, totally different from the reasons you keep doing it.
So let's just start with this big one. Are you just a product of your past? A bundle of old experiences, always reacting to things that happened ages ago? For a long, long time, a huge chunk of psychology would have said, yep, pretty much. But what if that's only half the story?
You see, early psychology was kind of split down the middle on this. You had one camp with these reactive theories who saw us as constantly looking backward. We're just trying to reduce tension and get back to some comfortable, balanced state. But then you had the proactive camp who believed we're forward-looking creatures, always seeking out growth and trying to shape our own futures. And that's where this guy, the psychologist Gordon Allport, comes into the picture. He looked at all those reactive, backward-looking theories and just felt like something major was missing. He argued that seeing people as only trying to satisfy old needs, well, it just didn't paint the whole picture of what it means to be human. And seriously, think about it. Do you really practice guitar just to reduce some biological need? Or do you take on a massive project at work just to feel balanced again? No way. These older theories completely fell apart when you tried to use them to explain our passions, our hobbies, our ambitions. They just couldn't explain why we sometimes actively look for challenges just for the sake of growing. And this is where Allport dropped his game-changing idea, a concept he called functional autonomy. And let me tell you, it is such a powerful lens for understanding how our motivations mature and evolve right along with us.
So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, functional autonomy is this idea that a motive can become its own reason for being. It can completely detach from whatever got it started in the first place. The why you do something today can be totally 100% different from the why you started doing it years ago.
Allport himself just nailed it with this quote. He basically said that the past only matters if it's actually affecting us right now. What's truly important is the driving force that exists inside you, right here in this present moment. That is the real explanation for why you do what you do.
Okay, here's a fantastic way to think about it. Picture a building being constructed. You need all that scaffolding around it to get the structure up, right? But once the building is finished and can stand on its own, what do? You take the scaffolding away. It's not needed anymore. The original motive is that scaffolding. It helps you build a new, self-sustaining interest, and then it can just disappear. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Allport didn't just stop with this one big idea. He actually broke functional autonomy down into two distinct types, and they range from simple, almost mindless habits all the way to the very core of who we are. The first and, let's say, more basic type is called perseverative functional autonomy. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but this really just deals with those simple, repetitive habits that seem to take on a life of their own, long after the original reason for them is gone. Let's look at some examples to make this real. Allport talked about lab rats that learn to run a maze to get food, but even when they're totally full, they might keep running it. It's almost like they're doing it just for the heck of it. Or think about starting a jigsaw puzzle because someone offered you a reward. Even if that reward vanishes, you still feel that nagging internal push to finish the puzzle, right? That's the motivation becoming its own boss. Okay, now let's move on to the second, much more profound type, propriate functional autonomy. Propriate comes from the word proprium, which was Allport's special term for the core of your personality, your sense of self, your values, your conscience. These are the motives that literally define who you are. And this is where the theory gets super personal. Imagine you take a job just to pay the bills. I mean, at first it's just a paycheck, but over time you develop a deep, genuine passion for the work itself. The original motive, the money, is now kind of secondary to the fulfillment and identity you get from that job. This is how a job becomes a calling, or how a simple hobby becomes a central piece of your life's purpose. Allport didn't just toss this idea out there and hope for the best. He was a really rigorous thinker. He believed any solid theory of motivation had to meet 4 specific criteria, and he designed his own theory to check every single box. First, he said, it's got to recognize that motives are happening now. Second, it has to be pluralistic, meaning it has to allow for lots of different kinds of motives, not just one or two. Third, it has to give real credit to our minds. Our plans and intentions have to matter. And finally, it has to allow for what makes us unique. Your specific reason for wanting to master a new language is yours, and it's different from anyone else's.
So is this the theory that explains absolutely everything? Well, not quite. Allport himself was really clear about its limits, and knowing what those are actually helps us understand the whole picture even better. So, functional autonomy isn't really the explanation for, basic biological drives like being hungry or sleepy. It's not for simple reflexes like blinking. It also doesn't really apply to habits that are still being formed and need reinforcement, or to certain psychological issues that are still very much tied to their original deep-seated cause. And that brings us right back to you. I want you to take a moment and really think about a skill, a hobby, a passion in your own life, something you genuinely love to do. Is the reason you pour your time and energy into it today the exact same reason you had on day one? Or has your motivation, just like you, grown into something entirely new?